I was declared dead at 6:27 a.m. on a frozen December morning. My body, found crumpled in the snow near a remote trailhead in Minnesota, registered a core temperature of 64.4 degrees, far below what's considered survivable. No heartbeat, no breath, no pulse. The emergency crews zipped me into a black body bag and radioed the coroner. My name was about to be erased by frost. And yet, 7 hours later, my eyes fluttered open in the hospital morgue. A nurse screamed. Monitors spiked. My body, cold and blue, jerked violently as warmth returned to my veins. I wasn't just alive, I was aware. I remembered the darkness. I remembered floating, watching, and waiting. And I remembered the overwhelming cold that crept into my bones like death itself. No one could explain it. Medical staff scrambled. News cameras gathered. Medical miracle, they called it. Resurrected, others whispered. But behind every headline was a terrifying truth. I hadn't truly died. Or had I? My brain should have been irreparably damaged. My organs should have failed. Instead, I was speaking, walking, and feeling things I'd never felt before. Some believed I was lucky. Others called it divine intervention. But I know the truth runs deeper and darker. The moment I died, something changed in me. I began to remember things that hadn't happened yet. Faces I'd never seen appeared in my dreams. My body, it never truly felt like mine again. This is the story of how I crossed the threshold of death and returned, forever altered. A story that shook my doctors, baffled neurologists, and haunted my family. What happened during those 7 hours? And why do I sometimes wish I hadn't come back at all? My name is Owen Hayes, and this is not the life I expected to live. I was 32, a park ranger in northern Minnesota, known for my strict routines and quiet life. But on December 12th, during a routine inspection in sub-zero weather, my body betrayed me. What followed wasn't just a medical anomaly, it was a collapse of everything I thought I knew about life, death, and consciousness. Medically speaking, I experienced what doctors refer to as apparent death due to severe hypothermia. At a certain point, when the body becomes too cold, the heart stops, breathing ceases. The cold also preserves. It slows cellular death. That paradox, where cold both kills and saves, is what gave me a second chance. But I came back with more than a pulse. I returned with memories I couldn't place, questions no doctor could answer. The hospital's medical team had seen extreme cases of hypothermia before, but never one like mine. I'd been without measurable life signs for over 7 hours. According to every protocol and textbook, I should have suffered massive brain damage. I should have been comatose, at best. Yet when I opened my eyes, I spoke clearly. I remembered my name, and I asked calmly, "Where's the boy in the red jacket?" There was no boy. This story isn't just about my recovery, it's about the strange phenomena that followed. The visions, the sensations, the truths I started seeing in people. It's about the cost of coming back, and how life after death might be more complicated than we think. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and comment below telling us what country and city you're watching from. The morning began like any other. I woke up before sunrise, brewed my bitter black coffee, and zipped up my insulated ranger jacket. The temperature outside was minus 19 degrees Fahrenheit, but I'd endured worse. I was stationed at the Boundary Waters region, and solitude came with the job. That day I was scheduled to check a remote surveillance station deep in the forest. Routine, uneventful, or so I thought. I remember the wind first, sharp, slicing, almost intelligent in the way it found the gaps in my clothing. A few miles in, I felt it tug at me, subtly at first, then violently. Around mile 3, I noticed something wasn't right. My hands were slow, clumsy on the GPS. My thoughts wandered, looping like a skipping record. The forest, usually a place of clarity for me, became foreign, like it was holding its breath. The first real warning came when I tried to radio back to base. My fingers couldn't grip the transceiver. I dropped it twice, then stared at it, disconnected from urgency. My breath, once visible in short white puffs, now felt labored. Something primal in me stirred. Fear, not of wolves or getting lost, but of stillness. My body was beginning to shut down, and I could feel it happening. I tried turning back, but the snow was deeper than I'd calculated, and every step took twice the effort. My thighs ached, my knees buckled. My internal compass, once so reliable, spun without direction. I stumbled, fell, and lay there for what could have been seconds or hours. The sky above me blurred, the branches etched like veins into the pale blue. That's when the sleepiness came, the seductive pull of warmth in a frozen world. I know now that this is called paradoxical undressing, a stage of severe hypothermia where the victim feels unbearably hot. I began peeling off my gloves, then my jacket. I wasn't suicidal, I wasn't hallucinating. I genuinely thought I was overheating. That moment sealed my fate. The cold entered me fully, not just into my skin, but into my core, my memories, my breath. When I was found by a search team around 6 a.m., an hour after I failed to report, they thought I'd frozen to death. My body was stiff, my skin mottled and waxy. No pulse, no reflex, no response to pain or light. I was unzipped from the ice and zipped into a body bag. It was over. a textbook case of death by exposure. The team transported me to a small rural hospital about 45 minutes away. I was kept in the ER until the official paperwork could be processed. The attending physician, Dr. Emily Tran, remembered looking at my chart, shaking her head and saying softly, "Poor man, no chance." But something about my eyes, open just a sliver, kept nagging at her. She ordered a warm IV infusion, just in case. At exactly 1:37 p.m., the ER nurse screamed. My fingers twitched. The cardiac monitor, attached more out of protocol than belief, spiked. At first they thought it was a mechanical glitch, but then my chest moved. Slowly, then again, the bag was ripped open, staff scrambled. My body was flushed with warmed fluids, oxygen, and stunned disbelief. I'd come back. I didn't open my eyes immediately, but I heard everything. The rustle of coats, the buzz of panic, the whisper, "He's alive." Then my own voice, hoarse and barely audible. "It's not over." I don't remember saying it, but 3 people later confirmed the same words. It was like someone else was speaking through me, someone watching from the other side. My body was alive again, but not whole. My mind flickered between past and present, between frozen silence and a strange hum I couldn't identify. And deep inside, I carried a name I hadn't known before. Lucas, the boy in the red jacket. No one knew who he was, not even me. But that's where this mystery truly begins. In the days following my return, the hospital room became a place of both wonder and quiet dread. Doctors paraded in with notepads and clipboards, whispering terms like spontaneous autoresuscitation, Lazarus syndrome, and therapeutic hypothermia reversal. I was the headline no one could understand, a man who had been dead by every clinical measure, yet woke up whole, or so they assumed. Outwardly, my vitals stabilized faster than expected. Within 48 hours, I was breathing on my own, swallowing soft foods and responding to questions. But something was wrong. I couldn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I was dragged into a suffocating darkness, as if my brain refused to disconnect. I began to fear the night. Not out of trauma, but because the darkness felt familiar. Too familiar. My neurological exams confused the specialists. Reflexes were intact, memory sharp. But then came the visions. They started small. I'd see flashes of light in my peripheral vision, or hear whispers when no one was nearby. At first, I assumed it was ICU psychosis. But then I started describing places I'd never visited, down to the wallpaper patterns, the furniture, even people's faces. Dr. Tran grew concerned. Could be a post-hypothermic hallucination response, she suggested during morning rounds. But her voice lacked conviction. They scanned my brain again. No swelling, no infarcts, no cortical damage. Still, the dreams intensified. In one, I stood on a bridge covered in frost, holding a child's mitten. I remember the echo of water below. I remember the same phrase repeating in my head, "He's not finished yet." The hallucinations became more than visions. I began speaking in my sleep, according to the night nurse, in a different voice. She recorded it on her phone. When they played it back, I didn't recognize it. A slow, deep tone, speaking in fragmented sentences. "Find the boy. Stop the silence. He's still cold." The room fell silent. No one knew what to say. My muscles, however, told a different story. I had severe myopathy in my lower limbs. Despite the miraculous survival, my legs felt like rubber. My physical therapist warned me that full motor recovery might take months. But that didn't scare me. What scared me was the sensation that someone else was inside me, stirring when I touched cold surfaces, reacting when I passed mirrors. My sister Callie flew in from Arizona. I hadn't seen her in over a year. When she walked into the room, she froze. "You look different," she whispered. I thought she meant my weight loss or the bruises, but it wasn't that. She pointed at my eyes. "They're not your eyes, Owen." I laughed it off. But later, looking in the bathroom mirror, I saw it too. Not the color, but the stillness, a stranger's calm in the face of chaos. By day 6, things worsened. My body temperature began fluctuating erratically, dropping without warning to hypothermic levels. I'd be sweating one moment and freezing the next. Nurses packed me in heated blankets. My blood oxygen dropped. The cardiac monitor beeped irregularly. Something in my system had changed, as if death had left a residue, and it was fighting to return. Dr. Tran ordered a full autoimmune panel. I heard the nurses outside debating my case. "We've ruled out infection, trauma, even neurodegenerative causes," one said. What if this isn't medical? The question hung in the air, unspoken in the report, but visible in their eyes. I was alive, yes, but my body wasn't obeying the laws it once did. And my mind, it was slipping between worlds. On the 7th night, I wrote the name again, Lucas. I didn't remember writing it, but there it was in my notebook, in my own handwriting, over and over. Below it, a sentence I don't recall ever thinking. "The cold is not finished with us." That's when I knew this wasn't just about me. Something or someone had followed me back. On the 8th morning, I awoke in a pool of sweat. despite the room thermostat reading 61 Kronaf. My skin was clammy, my breath shallow. I sat up too fast and nearly collapsed. Something inside me pulsed like an echo from within. I looked at the corner of the room and saw condensation forming on the window, even though the air was dry. It spelled a name, Lucas. I shouted for a nurse. When she came, the condensation had vanished. "You're likely dreaming with your eyes open," she said, trying to mask concern. But I wasn't hallucinating. I was remembering. That name wasn't from my imagination. It was rooted in something real. I could feel it in my spine, in my teeth. It was like cold had memory, and it had chosen me to remember it. Dr. Tran returned later that day with results. My thyroid had entered a temporary shutdown. So had my adrenal function. "Your endocrine system is behaving as if you're still hypothermic," she said, "but your body temperature is stable." She looked me over slowly, then asked, "Have you remembered anything else about that morning in the forest?" I told her everything. The snow, the voice, the name, the dreams, and the vision of a child in a red jacket standing near a frozen stream. To my surprise, she didn't laugh. Instead, she left the room and returned minutes later with a faded missing persons report. "This is from a neighboring county, about 30 miles from where you were found. A child named Lucas Garrison disappeared during a snowstorm 22 years ago." My blood turned to ice. The boy's photo, blurry and aged, matched the face in my dreams. The same gentle features, the same solemn stare. "How did you know about this?" she asked, her voice tight. I couldn't answer. I had never heard of the case, never seen the name before waking in that hospital. And yet, my body knew. That night, I dreamed again. But this time, I wasn't watching. I was there. I stood knee-deep in snow, holding the hand of a shivering child. We were surrounded by pines, the air thick with falling silence. He looked up at me and whispered, "You were supposed to come sooner." When I woke, I was weeping. The sheets around me soaked in sweat and melted ice. The staff grew more cautious. Psychiatric evaluations were ordered. One specialist, Dr. Myers, sat across from me with her hands folded tightly. "You may be experiencing a form of cold-induced memory confabulation," she explained. "It's rare, but trauma, combined with oxygen deprivation, can create false memories that feel entirely real." I nodded, but I knew better. This wasn't a malfunction. It was a message. I begged Dr. Tran to take me to the site where I was found. Reluctantly, she agreed, under strict supervision. We returned to the trailhead 2 days later. Snow had mostly melted. The trees were bare, but I recognized the exact spot where I fell. My body tensed as I stepped into the clearing. I turned toward the east and walked blindly for 40 yards. That's when I saw it, half buried beneath a collapsed branch, a child's red wool glove frayed with time. I picked it up with trembling hands. The initials LG were stitched on the inside. I fell to my knees. The air thickened. The wind howled through the trees like a voice I almost understood. Something had survived here. Something that had waited for me. That glove was submitted to the authorities. Days later, DNA confirmed it belonged to Lucas Garrison, the boy who vanished 2 decades prior. There were no remains, no signs of struggle, no tracks leading in or out of the area, just the glove. And a question no one wanted to ask. Why was it waiting there, untouched, until the exact moment I returned? After the glove was found, everything changed. Hospital staff grew quiet around me. Conversation stopped when I entered a room. I was no longer just the miracle man. I was the man who returned with secrets. Even Dr. Tran's tone shifted. She remained supportive, but her questions were sharper, almost clinical. "Are you still hearing things?" she asked one evening. I nodded. "It's not voices," I said. "It's presence, like someone waiting just behind the curtain." Physically, I was declining again. My heart rate began dipping at random. My skin went cold without warning. I developed frostbite-like lesions on my toes, despite normal temperatures. I wore socks, heated blankets. Nothing helped. "Your body is relapsing," Tran said, "as if it's trying to return to the hypothermic state that protected you." She paused before adding, "or whatever it was that claimed you." Tran proposed something radical, a controlled, medically supervised reinduction of hypothermia. "We need to recreate the conditions under which you came back," she said. "Not for curiosity. This might be the only way to stabilize your system." At first, I thought she was joking, but her eyes didn't blink. The hospital ethics board hesitated but approved it. "Voluntary, with consent," they emphasized. I signed the papers with a shaking hand. The chamber was prepped. Dim lights, silent monitors, IVs, and emergency oxygen. Tran explained the protocol in hushed tones. "You'll be sedated, cooled to 89.6 degrees and monitored. We'll bring you back slowly, like last time, but with control." I asked her if she believed this would fix me. She replied, "I don't know, but whatever's inside you, I think it needs resolution." As I lay on the table, the sedation took hold. I remember the lights above dimming into shadow. The cooling began, first as a chill in my spine, then full-body numbness. But just before I slipped under, I saw him again. The boy, Lucas, standing near the monitor, watching me. His lips moved, but no sound came. Then darkness. The first thing I felt wasn't cold, it was pressure. A weight pressing on my chest like someone was kneeling there. Then a sound, a low hum, vibrating through my rib cage. I opened my eyes in the dream, or maybe it was something deeper. I was in a frozen field. The boy was beside me, holding a second glove. He didn't speak. Instead, he handed it to me and pointed to the tree line. "It's time." I followed him into the woods. Each step echoed like a heartbeat. Then we reached a shallow, frozen pond. He knelt, pressed his hand to the ice, and whispered something I couldn't understand. When I leaned closer, I saw my own reflection beneath the surface, except it wasn't me. The eyes staring back were lifeless, vacant. It was the version of me that didn't wake up. I gasped as the chamber lights flared above. Tran was shouting. My temperature had dropped too fast. My vitals were erratic, but my consciousness was still elsewhere. I felt Lucas take my hand. He said, "You came back because I couldn't." Then everything shattered. The hum became a roar. The pond cracked open, and the cold rushed up from beneath with impossible force. When I woke, I was screaming. My skin was ice, my pulse racing. Tran held my hand, her eyes wide. "You flatlined for 2 minutes," she whispered. "We almost lost you again." I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. All I could say was, "He's gone." I didn't mean myself. I meant Lucas. I knew it. The cold had released him. Whatever bound us had severed. My body began to recover rapidly after that. Temperature stabilized, oxygen levels normalized. The lesions faded, the dream stopped. But something had changed. The doctors called it spontaneous remission. Tran called it the end of something. I wasn't sure what to call it. All I knew was that for the first time since waking up, I felt alone. The silence after the second rewarming was unlike anything I had known. It wasn't absence, it was completion. My dreams stopped entirely. No more frozen ponds, no more distant voices, no more Lucas. I should have felt relief, but instead I felt grief, as if something sacred had passed through me and I had failed to hold on to it. The staff noted my recovery with cautious optimism. My heart rhythm stabilized, my labs returned to normal. Even my appetite came back, stronger than ever. "Your endocrine levels are balancing out," Dr. Tran told me. "Your body thinks it's back in control." But she added quietly, "I'm not sure you'll ever feel the same again, Owen. And that's okay." My legs regained strength with time. Physical therapy was a daily trial, but I took each step with a strange kind of reverence. The cold that once numbed me now lingered only in memory, and yet I felt it echo in my bones during quiet moments. The doctors had no name for that. I called it the residue. News of my case spread far beyond Minnesota. Journalists came. A medical journal requested an interview. I declined them all. This wasn't a miracle I could explain. It was a rupture, a bridge between life and death I never asked to cross, and I couldn't bear to hear my story packaged as inspiration. It was so much heavier than that. Callie stayed by my side through most of the recovery. One afternoon, she brought me a small package. Inside was a child's red mitten, cleaned and sealed in a clear case. "You should keep it," she said, "even if you never understand it." I stared at it for a long time, then placed it on the window ledge. It didn't need explanation. It was proof that something happened, something real. Before discharge, I had one final conversation with Dr. Tran. She looked exhausted, but determined. "Owen, we've documented every scan, every blood result. Nothing explains your survival. Not with this level of brain function. Not after that long. But more than that, there's something else I haven't told you." She paused. "When we reviewed the body cam footage from the search team who found you, there's a frame, just one. It's blurry, but there's a figure standing near your body, a child, in red. But when they got closer, he was gone." She didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. I closed my eyes and nodded. That was the moment I knew I hadn't imagined it. Lucas had been there, waiting. Returning home felt surreal. My cabin was exactly as I'd left it, mug still on the table, boots by the door. But I wasn't the same. I couldn't live in isolation anymore. The silence was too loud now, so I moved to a small apartment near Duluth, where I could hear the sound of life. Neighbors laughing, cars passing, the world moving forward. I started volunteering at a local winter shelter, helping those caught out in the cold. One night, a boy came in, about 10 years old, wearing a jacket 2 sizes too big. He sat quietly, sipping cocoa. When I knelt beside him, he looked up and said, "You smell like snow." I smiled and replied, "That's because I never really left it." I still don't know what happened to me out there, whether science, spirit, or something in between saved me. But I know this: death isn't a door that always shuts. Sometimes it creaks open just enough for something or someone to come through. And if you listen carefully in the stillness of the cold, you might hear them whisper, "Thank you." Surviving death changes you in ways that medicine can't track. It rewires how you see the world. A glass of water, a gust of wind, a child's laughter. They all feel heavier now, like they carry echoes of something deeper. I used to walk through life like a man on rails, sure of where I was going. Now I move slower. I notice more, I grieve more, and I live more fully because of it. Sometimes I still feel the cold, not on my skin, but in quiet moments, like an old friend knocking gently on the back of my mind. I've learned not to fear it. The cold didn't take me, it gave me back. It took something in return, something I may never get back. And maybe that's the balance life demands when we brush against the other side. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. There are others out there, stories just as strange, just as fragile, just as real. Some are hidden in hospital files, others in whispered memories, and some, like mine, are carved into ice. Be sure to subscribe and stay with us, because the next story might be yours.